Well, Sarah was amazing. Everywhere. And she was there able to record and get me data, and we went back and forth a lot. Yeah. Oh, sure. Good morning. And sorry about the switch up. Okay. Sheri, you just have this one now.
Good morning. Is that better?
Yes.
Sheri Norton is here with Ontario County. Are you with the planning department or are you separate?
I am separate, actually.
Okay. So, and how long have you been with them?
Oh, wow. Going on 10 years.
Okay. So I use OnCor, and we're going to be talking about that. I would say 15 to 20 times a day in the planning function. And it's great for residents as well, applicants, developers, citizens. And Sheri's here to talk about GIS and the tools that the county has for every municipality. So thank you for coming. All right.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. My mouse over. Okay. So I'm just going to push ahead. So I'm actually housed in our information technology department, but our planning department is actually where the GIS program, or Geographic Information System, what the acronym stands for, started. So, and I still have, a ton of projects that I do with our planning department, as well as the rest of the county departments. About the time I came on board, our program shifted over to IT because it was, similar to other computer functions, networking, everything else. It really is a tool that was meant for all the departments to have access to, as well as for municipal and general public. So I figured I'd start with just a little bit of information about what is GIS. Has anyone heard that term before? Moderate amount? Okay. So, in essence, it's computer mapping, but a lot more. There's key things that go into a GIS system. We start with some sort of data. And it could be everything from just simple addresses to, various GPS field work, which we'll see examples of, and lots more. We have some sort of computer system. And these days, unlike when I started 25 years ago in this field, your phone is an amazing computer. So, and it's very powerful. So there's a lot of things that we can do, even things like Google is in essence sort of a GIS system. So we have, lots of equipment that we can use both for data collection as well as to look at data, to answer questions. And then we have people. So we have people such as myself that are creating data, editing data, doing analysis, making maps, and creating applications like OnCor, which I'll show you in a little bit. So, and then we have users from a whole breadth of people from the general public, staff such as yourselves, people on various boards for the town. And you all have different functions, different reasons for using the data. And this is a way of being able to basically look at information and answer questions. And I give kind of other examples here. Some of the collaborative projects I'll show you examples of that I've done with the town. Use apps like All Trails, Avenza. Some of you might have you heard of those a little bit? No? Okay. So these are just more mapping apps, and there's just tons of them out there these days that allow you to, you don't even realize you're doing GIS when you're using them. So, maps are used in just such a variety of ways these days. I have a few examples up here. I don't know through the pandemic how many of you have been looking at what we call a dashboard. The one you see up here is an example. It is turned off at this point because I think it was just about late January, early February, our public health department just, decided to stop in terms of day-to-day tracking. But we did for just about 2 years track all the public health information that was pulled. And so that was, you've probably seen an example, and I think I might have a link for John there. No, different one. Let's see. Okay, so this is another version of a dashboard. And this was designed for our sustainability and solid waste department. So one of the forms that the general public could submit is the level of, well, mostly smell from the landfill that's out in that's run by Casella. And so this form would come in as just a PDF. Their staff would enter the information. And I don't think, this is generally for internal use so that they could do summaries. But this was at a glance, they could kind of see, where are people indicating that something stinks. And what time of day, what's the time of year, and so on. So it's an interactive interface, and obviously the map is sort of the focus, but there's a lot more information that you can glean from it. And then has anyone seen the John Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard? I think it's probably the most viewed dashboard in period because of the pandemic. So it was a really great example. No, that's fine.
We have to pause for a second so we can share the screen on our Zoom.
Oh,
and I have to steal your. You can keep talking if you want, but I have to have your.
So the John Hopkins dashboard is a wonderful example. It's so powerful, showing worldwide as well as within the United States, different perspectives, different sort of key statistics. So that's one way. It's really powerful, and it may be something for you guys to consider that I can implement. The MRB group can certainly help you with. If you have particular local data that you think is important, either internally or for the general public, to have some idea of what's going on. So that's one example. We'll have others. I'll show you certainly the OnCor site, our kind of very powerful mapping website that's property specific. And we also have interactive ways of presenting. I actually should have done that for this presentation. I just, because of time, did not. But I have one example here, and let's see if my link will work. There we go. So I did this collaboratively with our county historian. This was in celebration of the centennial for World War I. And we had a very large project involved with several interns, and we actually had a 4-H group that was a group of mappers at that time. They went out with their phones. This was probably, 7-8 years ago. They went out to the cemeteries in Ontario County and mapped the locations and some information, got photographs of some of the veterans from World War I that were interred here in the county. And this was put together, and notice it's put together as sort of a dynamic interactive story. And it's a really neat way. Again, I'm sure, I'm happy to work with anybody if this is of interest. I'm sure the MRB group probably could as well, as a way of presenting information. It's a little more interesting than PowerPoints, and it's a lot of fun. The users can sort of dive in to the experience, and you can scroll in. And this is just one way of kind of presenting information. And notice, in this case, it's not map centric, but as you can see, as I scroll along, there is a map and it is interactive, and there's things, these are cemeteries. If I scroll in, you can see, there's more detail. And that's actually our county historian who's out, and he was out finding some of these veterans as well. And then he wrote up very detailed documents about what he found on these various veterans. So again, that's one interactive project. So as you can see, other than just general maps, PDF maps, hard copy maps, OnCor, there are such a variety of ways that you can present the information. So, keep that in mind if you have projects that you're trying to convey to the public or to each other. There's such a wide variety of ways that you can do that now. Okay, so OnCor. This is our kind of a screenshot of our hub. And through the county's website, you'll see that there's a series of tabs that help organize. The OnCor obviously that's the first thing that anyone getting to this kind of OnCor welcome page will see. And we do have two different versions of our public OnCor site. The first one, just the OnCor property app, is that's the full kitchen sink. It's very powerful, lots of stuff to do. We also have, I call it the OnCor Lite. It's the toolbar is more condensed. It's a somewhat simpler interface. So if users are not as comfortable getting into applications, it could be a good place to start. It's maybe not as overwhelming when they first get in terms of options and things to do. But it does all the information behind the scenes in terms of the data layers and the tools. Most of them are there. They're just organized a little bit differently. And we also have a tab for staff sites. And let me go ahead and okay. So this is the county website. And if I go, so if anyone does a search for Ontario County and you go to our general website, you'll see across the bar, just below the really pretty picture, there's an overt link for OnCor. And if you click on that, I call it the welcome page. And you'll see, by the default, you're seeing the two public viewers, OnCor viewers. If a user wants to log in, they can. It's the same for anybody. It lets you save a session. So just bear in mind that if you do that, anyone can view a saved session. So if I save a session today, that's available for anybody else to work with. I mean, it's the same data. It's just keep that in mind. Now, we also have staff sites, and you'll see one of them is the OnCor staff property app. And that everyone in the town, each municipality has their own login. And I do have in the PowerPoint that's saved as a PDF, I do provide that login for you guys, I believe. If not, just reach out and I can give that to you. The advantage of being in the staff site is we have more tools. In some cases, depending on the community, we have specific data that we host. So I'm not sure about Canandaigua, but I know for City of Geneva, we do have specific infrastructure data and some other layers. We do have certainly zoning data for all the communities. We have a lot of information. We also have special map templates that are specific. If you log in with Town of Canandaigua credentials, it's going to have, Town of Canandaigua header on it. It'll have your contact information. It's just it's tailored specifically so that you have sort of a local feel if you have printouts that you're doing. We also have a few more specialized apps. This was developed for our Office for the Aging, for senior mail deliveries. It actually doesn't get used all that much anymore, but we also have so any county buildings or leased facilities, cell towers, we have staff in our planning department that do inspections and maintain those facilities. So this is a hub specific for them, and they have their own login. And then we have other types of applications, and I'll have more information about that shortly. One of them is the Planning Exploratory App. I'll get into that in a little later. We have a few others, and these are open to the general public. Anyone can access them. And then finally, I'll point out that we do have a tab here for help. And this includes, PDF guides, and then also a whole series of sort of little short videos that are specific to, some of them are an orientation, others are for specific tools. So that's a really good resource. And then you can always reach out to me if you have questions. I'll do the best I can to answer them. We do have a feedback form. So if you have, if there's ever any problems, definitely please let me know. You can either reach out to me directly or you can use that form. If you have a wish list of data you would like to see, additional tools, just let me know if it's feasible, and in particular, if it's something that has wide appeal. Either for the general public or if you're interested in doing a particular kind of task, more than likely the other communities in the county are as well. So that can be a good justification for us to invest the time and the money to have something custom developed. And we've done that. So like the mailing notifications that the zoning office does every month, that came out of a need from the town here. I had done an OnCor workshop, and that was something that came out that really wanted to have the ability to do those notifications, get the mailing labels and a table for mail merges. So that's the OnCor welcome page, and I'm just gonna get back to my PowerPoint. So in terms of OnCor, I've mentioned we have public versus staff sites. We have lots of other applications as well. Under other apps, I do try to, keep a running list there if there's new things that come out. I do hold workshops, or have in the past, both open to the general public as well as, either at one of our county training rooms or within the, a community. Town of Victor had, this was probably 3-4 years ago, pre-pandemic. Everything's pre-pandemic. I had a series of workshops up at the Town of Victor with Eagle View's trainer for Pictometry, which has anyone used Pictometry here? The kind of bird's eye view. So, that is something, if you have an interest, now that we're slowly crawling out of the pandemic phase, we could definitely talk about having a formal workshop again, where we set up computers or laptops for folks to work on. Either that, I have done workshops at FLCC using their training room. So that's something that we could definitely explore if the college is open to it. Okay. Lots of embedded links. Okay. So this is just to kind of give an orientation briefly of, some of the things that OnCor provides. There's tools, as you can see, there's tools here for finding properties, very property centric. If you log in, one of the tools that you have that the general public won't have is you can search by owner. So, that's the advantage if you do log in. We do have a tool for comparing properties. It won't be quite as powerful as what your local assessor will do, but I think it's a very good starting point if people are interested in knowing, what are properties, that are in general like mine. I mentioned Pictometry. So the county has contracted every 3 to 4 years with EagleView, which is a company based in Henrietta, up near Rochester, and they fly the entire county, and we have bird's eye straight down as well as at an angle, which is really nice because you can kind of rotate around buildings, you get a nice perspective. You can also do a comparison year by year. So if you're looking at, what has changed over time, you can definitely get a really good view of that. We do have access to any surveys that have been filed with our county clerk. We have tax bills as well as tax maps. If you do not see surveys, it's possible. I always recommend, check with your zoning office. It's possible that there's survey maps that are in a file somewhere in the zoning office and haven't been processed and scanned through our county clerk's office. So if there's anything you don't see and exists, let me know. If you can provide that to us, we can process it. And we do have a whole range of historic images. So, we do have a viewer, so you can scroll through all the way back to 1938. Just keep in mind, the resolution is not great. These are really big areas. So, a lot of people are trying to see, like, can I see that fence, from 1938 on my property? Probably not. But you can probably see, was this agricultural at that time, for that particular area? Yes, you could probably answer that kind of question. And then we have a whole series of different kinds of reports. We have a one-page summary. We have detailed reports that is, 14, 15 pages that gives a lot of information on ownership and building inventory and so on. So, really good in depth. And then we have a somewhat newer multi-page soil analysis report. So for anyone that really wants a deep dive on, what are the limitations as well as capabilities for various types of use of land based on the soil information, that's a really great resource. And then we have lots and lots of data. So I mentioned Pictometry, and just keep an eye on the time. Yeah, so Pictometry we have embedded with an OnCor. Again, with the staff site, one of the advantages to logging in is you not only get to zoom in, rotate the frame so you can look at different angles, north, south, east, west, but you also have a series of measurement tools that are available only if you log into the staff site. And that's not our restriction. It's actually EagleViews, which is the company that basically hosts these images that are embedded with an OnCor. Okay. And here's a few more examples in terms of, things in the staff site. I mentioned you can search by owner. Custom map template. So, you can see here, it's got your header, it's got your contact. If for whatever reason, if you want something different on this print template, just let me know. If you would like an alternative that's department specific, I could probably do that for you. Just let me know. So, the underlying software that runs OnCor is very powerful. There's so many things that I can do with it. And so we've got tailored data in some cases, and I mentioned the notification tool. So you can pick a parcel and then, create mailing labels as well as an Excel file. So I don't know, anyone do mail merges? It could be handy. Okay. So I'm just going to, if you don't mind, I'm just going to bounce out of the PowerPoint so I can get into OnCor and do a brief demo. Okay. So I'm going to come back and so when anyone that's launching OnCor from the welcome page is going to get a disclaimer pop up like this. Just basically use it at your own risk. The information is a wonderful starting point for a lot of research, but it's not survey data. So, we just want to make that explicit. That's okay. Okay, so when you get in, you get this little notice about, tax bills, and it's really, our county attorney forces us to put disclaimers on a lot of things. And just some basic resources if you want further information. Okay. So when you get in with the staff site, in addition to being able to search for a parcel by physical address or by the tax map number, you can also search by owner. So you'll see another option there. So, if you're interested in, going right to a search, and most folks are, just select that option and then click next. Or if you just want to get to the map and just explore on your own, you can either just close the dialog, click next, or cancel. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So when you get in, by default, we only see sort of an initial set of data, but we have tons of different categories. So I'll just shrink these up just so you can see. So we've got, for example, if I check a box next to a category, we've got all kinds of, different types of environmentally focused layers. Likewise, we've got all kinds of zoning data. We've got utilities and, lots of different categories. And like I said, I'm happy. There's so much to cover that, I would be really happy to do a workshop to go into full depth in terms of what OnCor does. And I definitely advise, if you have a chance, if you haven't been in OnCor, to, just dive in, take a peek, maybe look at your own property and see, the depth of what you can do in terms of tools and data. We have, a lot of different tools. You can navigate the map. You can use a search tool. So, for example, I can search by address. And one of the things I recommend, if you're using these tools, particularly if you're going to search by name or by address, is just type part of it. So like in this case, I'm doing the address number. The reason is there's a lot of county and state roads where I never know if they're going to use the route number or the common name. And so what you get is, if you pause for a few seconds, wait for that list to catch up, it'll give you a short list of whatever matches, like in this case, the street address. So that's particularly helpful. And then if you find a match, so I'll just go to, I think Wells Curtis is in Canandaigua. So if we come through, you find a match, and it's the map will zoom into that property, and you get this, I call it the kitchen sink, just this table of tons and tons of information. You've got everything from just basic information about who owns the property. I will make a note that this information, the ownership, comes from a database that our real property office at the county maintains. And it's based on the deed filings. If the owner has moved and has not notified, if the county has not been notified of the change in address, mailing address, that may be incorrect. So if you get mailings, if you do the mailing notification tool and you get mailings that get kicked back, please let our real property office know so they can change the update that address. So we've got a lot of information, everything from where to vote. And that actually, I maintain lots of different data layers. Some are specific for 911. This is for Board of Elections. And part of what the OnCor system will do is it'll run a geographic analysis to figure out, based on that location, which election district does it fall within. And based on that election district, it has information to tell you where to vote. So another interesting resource. And then I mentioned a bunch of reports. You'll see up top here, we have various reports that you can run. Some will take a little longer. Some, like find similar properties, is a more extensive process. So there'll be a form where the user has to interact a little bit, or leave it at the defaults before the report runs. And then we've got, a variety of different types of information that people can click on. I mentioned the detail report. So these are, definitely, if you haven't used OnCor, or even if you have, but you haven't necessarily explored all these reports, definitely, get in and see what it's about. So we've got, we've also got a shortcut tool here that was developed a few years ago. One of the feedback items that I got actually through that OnCor feedback form was some people don't want to do anything other than get surveys, tax maps, and bills or tax bills for a property. They don't care about doing anything else. So in order to facilitate that, we just had a shortcut tool that lets them either click on the map or just use one of these tools to either, enter the tax ID or the physical address, and it'll just run through. It'll just basically give them the output. It'll package everything up in a zip file, and they get any surveys, tax bills, and tax maps from a get-go. So that's a nice shortcut if that's the only thing people care about. And oh gosh, let's see. We've got lots of different tools for interacting and adding data. You can both search for coordinates and plot coordinates on the map, which is kind of handy. Just keep in mind, if people are trying to find their property corners, it's not survey data, but it is a really good starting point. So, if they've had their property surveyed before and there might be a marker out there, this would give them a really good starting point, to have coordinates that they could put into their GPS. And we also have ways of, printing a map. You can export just the map itself as an image, and you can measure things on the map, and you can add, just interactive text and graphics. So as you can see, it runs a gamut of just tons of things that you can do with it. So let's go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So one of the other sites that, in addition, you can use the OnCor embedded within OnCor, the Pictometry views. And that's how, frankly, that's how most people, I think, are using the Pictometry, because it's right there. You've got all the other information. But EagleView does have their own standalone Explorer site. They have provided free training. They have a trainer that has basically a virtual room set up in Henrietta, and their trainer, I don't even know how many at a time can do it, but definitely at least 12. If you have an interest in having formal training with the Connect Explorer, you'll notice that a lot of these measure tools, a lot of the tools are going to be very similar to what you see within OnCor, but there's certainly a lot more available. If you're interested as a town, just reach out to me, and I can reach out to our contact at EagleView about maybe getting a workshop set up. And so this is the login, and if you do not have a login yet for the Connect Explorer, and again, this is a standalone app, there is data that I provide. There are layers that you can turn on and off, things like parcel boundaries and streets and address points and so on. That information I do put in. If you would like a login for this, just let me know. Any municipal staff, any county staff are entitled, as well as fire departments, EMS, any kind of emergency response agencies within the county. So just let me know if you have an interest. It's not open. This Connect Explorer is not meant for the general public, just for, staff of various kinds. Okay, so, all right. So we've talked about OnCor. We've talked about both the public and municipal login site, talked about, options for using Pictometry within OnCor, as well as its own standalone Explorer. I just wanted to mention briefly that, we have a lot of other applications. One of them that's more recent is the Planning Exploratory App. And this provides, you can pick one or more parcels that might be part of a project area, either someone from the, and this is open for the public, as well as for any staff that you might have in mind. And it creates a really large report with lots of maps, lots of analysis behind the scenes. The report itself will take, and it actually generates two. It generates a report for the main boundary area, which might be one or more parcels, depending on what you pick. And then it also, there's going to be a buffer. I'm trying to remember, it was like 500 feet around that project area, because that can be of interest too. You want to know not just within the project boundaries, but is there going to be a positive or negative impact based on the project feasibility, based on the area around it. So let me, sorry, I'm just going to bounce back to, hopefully the report is done at this point. So I'm just going to close some of these tabs back out. Okay. And we're done. Okay. So just before I started, there was an existing exploratory project area that I picked, and I ran that report. It does take about 5 minutes to run. And so this is the output. So you can see it's got, just a general overview of the map of where it is. And we've got zoning information, details about, ecological communities, which is a layer that our planning department, in conjunction with Dr. Bruce Gilman, who's retired now, but he's an ecologist that taught at FLCC. We've, are there any wetlands? In this case, there's national wetland inventory that do have some impact on that property. If there's any flood zones, what's the watershed that's impacted? Is there a permanent stream that this drains to, and so on. So there's, if it was in an ag district, we only have one now, ag district 1, does that impact that at all? And then, details about the slope and, lots and lots of information. We do on a nightly basis pull DEC data for spills, bulk storage, and remediation. So if there were any on that particular site, those would get listed there. So we have various information. We've got soil data. This is a very abbreviated version of that really long soil analysis report that you can run by parcel from OnCor. So these are just, key factors. At least our planning department felt that these were key factors in terms of determining, whether a property is suitable for various uses, and come through any infrastructure information and so on. So, and then we got lots and lots of maps. And part of what takes so long to generate this very big report is getting all of these maps inserted. So just be patient, get your coffee and then come back. But you can see there's, just a lot of information here. And this is a really good starting point if you have people come in to, decide whether this is something that they want to do on their property, they want to add a house or they want a subdivision. It's a really good place to start for research. So, you can see, okay, well, there's a stream, there's wetlands here. You may want to cite your, house or whatever it is, so that you're not impacting those resources. and so on. So, depending on, and then there's various information here on, where does this data come from, if you want. And then there's information about what all the color coding means, different legends, and so on. This is a county-wide application, so that's why you're seeing information for all these communities, not just for Canandaigua. And then details about the ecological community, what do the codes mean? We try to be as comprehensive as possible in terms of, the last thing I'll point out is we do have easements, but it's in development. And, so take that with a grain of salt. It is by no means complete. We develop it as we go. I know MRB Group has been developing some of that for the town, but I would not use the easement information that we have. A lot of it is map only. It's not, we don't have the deed reference information. So just very heavy grain of salt in terms of your usage. So that's an example of, the planning analysis report. Okay. Okay. Pictometry, planning analysis, and okay. So we're getting towards the end, but I just wanted to wrap up with information on, we do have like traditional static PDF maps for a variety of things. They're kind of grouped by category. So we do have really nice detailed street maps for every community that are listed here. So if people are just looking for a simple PDF map that has list of streets, they please definitely encourage them to grab that. I may need that. It's been a while since I updated them, so I may need to, if it looks like there's things that are missing, just let me know. And I'm happy to get those updated. We've got election district, political district maps. We have fire district maps, EMS district maps. We have there's a lot of information just as PDFs that we provide out here. We also have a lot of either links to, community resources. If there are, if the town, Ananda is a good example. So once that map's done, we'll get that, we'll get a link posted directly to kind of the landing page for that park. And then we have county resources that are provided there as well. We also have a lot of data that's available for free, to anybody, and that includes our tax parcel data. Yay! Took me 8 years to get that. And then we also have, and we provide that data typically in many different formats, in CAD for, as well as a standard GIS format. And then we also have cloud-based data that for those that have the capability and want to bring it in. That last option is rather nice because our data is copied over for cloud use in OnCor and other things on a nightly basis. So if you want the most up-to-date address points and streets and other information, that's a great one to pull in versus the static data that I post periodically. And I'll just mention quickly, we do have a lot of smaller focused apps, so they tend to be very short-term kinds of projects. I had one example there that was early in the pandemic, our tourism office asked me to take their data on restaurants that were still open and doing takeout and delivery. So that we did that for just about a month, and then I stopped getting data. but it was a very helpful little application, that we were able to spin up very quickly. So that I think sites like OnCor are incredibly powerful. They have tons of data, but there are lots lots and lots of projects that I've done, that are very small and focused. I have one right now with our public health department, where they're looking at food deserts, meaning, where are places that don't have access to grocery stores or fresh food. So they have a public health fellow, basically a very educated intern that's I stood up the framework for this person to develop data. And it'll be a short-term project. You may find that you have projects like that too. I've done one for the city of Geneva. They were looking at vacant housing. And they had people in their planning department that were interested in recording the status of various kind of vacant abandoned houses, and what was the stat. They have a process where they review. I'm not sure what happens to them, but that was a project that was stood up probably within a few hours. So if you have needs like that, either I or probably the MRB group could probably help you. If you have something like that you want information for the general public, or for yourselves internally. I also wanted to talk about some of the more recent projects that I've done in partnership with the town. So one of the ongoing ones, we actually just met with the Parks Committee yesterday afternoon, is to finally revamp and clarify the trails at Ananda Park. So this is a collaborative project. We have a volunteer that's mapped all the trails, everything here. And it is quite a spaghetti network in terms of, what's formal trails, what's marked, what's not, what do we want to include formally, what do we want to keep off the map because we want to discourage people from wandering up to waterfalls and not going places where it's particularly safe to walk. And the output will be a new set of 3-paneled sections for the main kiosk. It's down below where the staircase is. So there'll be a very large map, as well as a panel on history, another one natural history and natural resources. And we'll also have a brand new brochure that'll have great information, another smaller size map on the back. And then we're also going to have a map that's interactive, meaning if you have an app like a Venza, there's probably others that are free. You can actually take that map, put it on your phone or your tablet, and your GPS will know where you are. We have maps like that for Ananda, for the Ontario County Park, as well as Grimes Glen and some others. So, someone could just download the PDF, bring it into an app like Avenza, and they'll be able to navigate the trails themselves, which is great. So that's ongoing right now. And this was one, whoops. Go back. There we go. This is another one. We did not have the trail data. So I took the brochure and I basically on my computer, I heads up traced over the lines so that we could get the trail information as well as the new park. This was a fairly new park preserve that was added. So I created just a simple map for our own use in the system. And let's see. Another really big project that actually started with your previous historian, Ray Henry, was the historic barns inventory. A really, really big project. So this started with a bunch of volunteers that went out with just paper inventory forms. And what Ray and another volunteer, Jake, had done is they took all those paper forms, all the photographs, everything was scanned in digital format. I set up a a site where they would log in, and then the framework of the data in our database system. And they went through for the town of Canandaigua, and they entered all the information from those surveys. And so that's available now. It's in OnCor. If you look under, there's a category for cultural resources and the historic barns. It's not just Canandaigua anymore. I've had a few interns over the years that have tackled the other communities that actually did inventories. But it definitely, and then there's another app through that OnCor welcome page on the county website. There is a nice interactive app if you just want to explore the barns themselves. And I do have a link there. So if you just a quick glance, so you could see, there's various barns here. If you click on it, you can get some basic information. You can see there's, the survey form was fairly extensive. So we've got all kinds of details, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see there's, all kinds of pictures that were included, including the original survey form. So, these were photographs with various notations that were added by the people that were taking the photographs, and these were scanned, obviously. Okay. I will mention this was not exclusively for the town, but I mentioned Dr. Bruce Gilman and the ecological community. So we have very, very detailed land use information. There are a few areas of the county that still need to be surveyed. So what I do is prepare a set of hard copy maps, big maps, that Bruce will take out into the field, and he'll survey and mark up, based on the different ecological types that he sees. And then he's worked with one of the planning staff at the county to get this data developed. So that's a whirlwind and a lot of information. As I mentioned, I'm more than happy, to try to set up an OnCor workshop to give people, real in-depth information, as well as if you're interested in the Pictometry Connect Explorer, I can reach out to EagleView, and they're always very happy to provide training that's at no cost to the town. Likewise for OnCor. Any quick questions? I know we have to wrap up, but.
Sheri, do you track broadband as far as availability and strength?
I don't, but under the table, so to speak, I have grabbed screenshots of things like Empire pipelines, Empire, the fiber, Empire Fiber, because they show their coverage area. We do have older line data for the municipal lines, and there's a difference between the data layers. So sort of, I mean, we do know from older data that the state did analysis, prior to me coming on board here, I want to say, the early 2000s. That's how far back it goes. No, I mean, we have various information that we can overlay that would give sort of an area coverage, but it's not going to be super accurate. I mean, I know there's areas like in Italy Valley and other places that have very poor reception, and I don't consider Frontier much coverage. Good question, though. Yep.
Just that planning exploratory app,
Mhm.
where do you find that?
If you go to the OnCor site, escape out of here. If you go to Ontario County's website to the OnCor welcome page, you'll see so OnCor is the default tab, and then you'll see staff sites. Under other apps, you'll see it's the middle one. If you click on the Planning Exploratory app.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just a couple housekeeping things. If any of you did not sign the sign-in sheet, I know a couple people had to come in later. It is going around and we have that available. And we have lunch available for those of you who are sticking around in our kitchen. Lunch is ready. Thanks, everyone.